Tax season, the time of year when everyone scrambles to get their paperwork in order and beat the well-publicized April 15th deadline. But let's face it, taxes can be confusing, and at times it can even become an unpleasant experience for some folks. And with so much to do, it's easy to feel overwhelmed. It is worth noting that there are a few factors that could affect the IRS set forth April 15th tax deadline, resulting in a different deadline for some Americans. For example, a state holiday falling on April 15th would mean pushing out the tax filing due date for residents of such states. This can usually translate to a filing extension for income taxes by a day or two. Taxpayers who have been affected by certain specific natural disasters also would normally get an automatic extension, and it is always recommended to check the IRS-issued guidance on disaster relief by state and by date on the official IRS website. So, what happens if you are not eligible for an extension as part of the IRS mandate due to any of the reasons we stated, and you missed the April 15th deadline? Well, the short answer is that all depends on where you fall in the following tax filing scenarios. 1. Late filing with no taxes owed. 2. Late filing with refund owed. 3. Late filing with taxes owed. Well, the good news is there are no penalties for filing late if you don't owe any taxes. But if you're expecting a refund, you won't get it until you file your return. A quick side note on tracking your owed refund. The speed of when you get your funds will vary dramatically depending on how you filed. If you had an opportunity to file your return online and in addition opted for a direct deposit by giving your IRS your bank account information, you should see your refund within 3 weeks of filing, per IRS guidelines. If you filed on paper or if you're waiting for a check in the mail instead of a direct deposit, the IRS advises that it might take longer to get your refund. Regardless of how you file, you can go over to the irs.gov website to look up the status of your refund using their "Where is my refund" functionality. This feature has been super helpful and reliable over the years by removing the guesswork on where your refund money is, and in turn allowing you to sit back and relax while the IRS tax gurus finalize your return. Now, let's talk about the not-so-fun part. What happens if you owe taxes and miss the deadline? If you owe taxes and fail to file by April 15th, you could face penalties and interest on the unpaid amount. Payments are due on the day that your tax return is due, and not the day you actually file. The IRS will enforce a failure to file penalty if you don't file your tax return by the due date. The penalty you must pay is a percentage of the taxes you didn't pay on time. It is therefore crucial to take taxes seriously and always treat the filing deadlines with some urgency, especially where you owe Uncle Sam some money. A big tip for owed taxes: where you can't afford to cover all the amount you owe, it's still a great idea to pay as much money as you can afford before the deadline to avoid owing late fees on the portion you paid. The IRS calculates the failure to file penalty based on how late you file your tax return and the amount of unpaid tax as of the original payment due date, and not the extension due date. Unpaid tax will be the total tax required to be shown on your return minus the amounts paid through withholding, estimated tax payments, and allowed refundable credits. Partial payments will therefore go a long way in saving you some money by lowering the final interest penalty and some fees associated with tax invoices. Another important point worth emphasizing: if you find yourself unable to pay your taxes in full by the deadline, don't worry. The IRS and many states offer installment payment plans. If you need more time to pay your taxes, you can apply for an installment agreement with the IRS upon receiving your invoice, or by simply using the IRS online payment agreement tool or referring to the state's Department of Revenue website for such programs. These plans are a welcome relief to allow you to pay off your tax debt in smaller, manageable monthly installments when needed. It's important to note that there may be fees and interest associated with tax invoice installment plans, so be sure to read the terms carefully. So, what's the deal with filing for an extension to file your tax return? Would this not save me from penalties if I owe taxes? Well, requesting for an extension to file your taxes will give you an additional 6 months to submit your tax return by October 15th. The key to getting an extension is to file your request by the April tax filing due date. Just remember, an extension is only for filing your return, and not an extension to pay what's owed. You still must pay any tax you owe by the April filing date to avoid penalties and fees associated with late payment of your tax obligation. Always refer to IRS for qualification of automatic extensions that may apply for federally declared disaster areas, military-specific scenarios, and citizen or resident aliens living outside the U.S. To make tax seasons more manageable and easier each year, consider keeping organized records throughout the year and taking advantage of available tax deductions and credits. With modern technology and tools, it has never been easier to manage tax-related forms and documents electronically. Virtually all banks, investment apps, and other financial firms offer to deliver customers W-2s, 1098, e-student loan interest paid form, 1099 series forms for non-employment income, and any other tax forms electronically with an option to download directly from their websites. This also plays nicely into the electronic tax filing option that has been enabled and facilitated by modern tax filing software such as TurboTax, H&R Block, Cash App Taxes, TaxSlayer, and TaxAct, just to mention a few. There are different tiers and costs associated with these tools, so always do your research to see what tool fits your needs and even skill set. For people that prefer self-service, a lot of online tax software services have a free plan for taxpayers with certain criteria and income thresholds. Majority of the electronic tax companies also offer expert services that allow tax professionals to do your taxes for you for a fee. For individuals that are not comfortable with online services or doing their own taxes, we always recommend seeking services from certified tax professionals and tax preparation services with offices within your location. Another tip for tax filing: IRS also offers an option to prepare and file federal income tax returns online for free using guided tax preparation software for qualified taxpayers. Be sure to check out this option to see if you qualify and the option meets your needs so that you are not paying premium money for other software out there. So, whether you're celebrating a refund or sweating over a tax bill, make sure to mark April 15th on your calendar and take the necessary steps to meet the deadline. Remember the old saying, time is money. So don't procrastinate taxes, whether you hope to get your dues from the government or you simply want to save some money from a timely payment of what you owe the government by avoiding penalties and fees.